Hello everyone, good morning, and welcome to this new session of the Temkin International Talks organized by the Temkin Foundation. Today we are honored to host Dr. Hassan Nejadghanbar, Research Assistant Professor in the Department of English and Communication at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. He will be presenting on the topic GenAI disclosure in academic work, trends, tensions, and best practices. Welcome back, Dr. Hassan.
Thank you very much, Zainab. I'm very happy to be here. And hello, everyone. As you can see, the title of my presentation is GenAI Disclosure in Academic Works, Trends, Tensions, and Best Practices. This is my second time presenting, and I'm very happy to be here again. So before I start, I want to share that this research has actually been published very recently in the Journal of Applied Linguistics Review. So if you're interested, you can scan this QR code and find access to the published paper, which is open access. And while I'm presenting today, I need to emphasize that this research has been done in collaboration with my colleagues, Benjamin Locke Morehouse, Chenza Wu, Harmandeep Kaur, and Mary Elena Yo. Before I start, I want you to reflect on these questions for a little while. Have you used GenAI tools as part of your writing or publication processes? How about as part of your research processes? Okay, so did you report this when submitting your manuscript to a journal or submitting the assignment to someone higher in rank? Why? Why not? How did you feel about it? What uses should we report and which ones should we not? Should we only report if a journal requests it? And what are your thoughts if someone uses GenAI as part of their writing for publication or research processes? Do you see it as a positive thing or as a negative thing? How would you judge the person if they tell you they have used GenAI in their work submitted to you for whatever reason? So I think these are very important questions to reflect on. Okay, so let me provide a little bit of background. As we all know, generative artificial intelligence, or GenAI, has significantly impacted the way we write and publish. So, and all of us are kind of exploring how this thing works and what are the best practices. And we all know that a lot of articles are being written on the use of GenAI in writing and in publishing as well. And we know that publishers, journal editors, authors, and reviewers are attempting to comprehend the new reality and the emerging conventions that reflect the adoption of these tools. So we are all trying to understand these tools and the best practices for implementing these tools in our writing and publishing endeavors. But one new convention, this convention was not there 5 years ago, is the expectation to report GenAI use within an article. So now we are seeing publishers, journals, some of them asking authors, hey, please declare if you use GenAI in your article, and if yes, how? So this is the main question that we are going to talk about today and the main focus of our research. There's a problem. The problem is that when you go to different journals and when you go to different publishers, you see that there is not a consistency across journals and publishers as what they expect from the authors, and how they expect authors to declare their use, right? So we could say that these inconsistencies are how GenAI should be reported. We don't see a consistency. The level of detail to report. If I'm going to report, what level of detail should I include in my report? And also, what uses need to be reported? Should I report if I just give one sentence to GenAI and say, hey, see if there are any grammatical mistakes in this one sentence? Should I report it when I submit it to a journal? Or no, should I just report higher levels of use? These are questions that we are all dealing with. And I should say that Yin and Chapla have published this wonderful paper where they dig into the rules and I could say regulations set by some journals and also the guidelines shared by these journals and publishers as well. So if you're interested, you could also read this paper. And when we go to, I don't know how to pronounce this actually, COPE or COPE, in 2023, they released these guidelines asking authors to disclose or to reveal their use of GenAI in research. I'm not going to go through their guideline, but overall it says if there is any image or text you have produced using GenAI tools, you need to transparently report it in your work. But so I need to tell you that my research is actually focused on one discipline. I come from the discipline of language and linguistics. So the research we did was focused on language and linguistics. But overall, this could get a very good picture of what is going on in one discipline that could inform the other disciplines as well. So within the discipline of language and linguistics, if you look at these three journals, for example, you can see that they emphasize different aspects and it's like they have different priorities and they are expecting different levels of disclosure or reporting of your use of GenAI. But another journal in our field called Recal, if you go to the homepage of this journal, you'll see that the journal requires more details. And at the same time, the journal provides guidelines on how to declare. If you look at here, the right side in the middle, it says how to declare. So it provides the guideline and also it's compulsory to disclose your use of AI. Even if you did not use GenAI in your research, you need to declare it, that I did not use any GenAI tools in my research. So we see different levels of details provided by different journals and publishers. And here you can see some example statements. For example, the first one is with more details. The authors say, during the preparation of this work, we used ChatGPT-4 for language editing to refine phrasing, grammar, and style. And then they go on saying, no substantive intellectual content, such as hypotheses, literature review, methods, result, and discussion, was generated by the tool, blah, 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 blah. So they provide good details. You go to the second one, it's less details, I can say. It says ChatGPT 3.5 and a customized ChatGPT were used as part of this research study methodology to determine if GenAI could give adequate feedback. So kind of like revealing more, but less details. And the last one says GenAI disclosure, the authors declare no use of generative AI. But here we face a transparency paradox. While journals promote GenAI disclosure and they provide some kind of guidelines on how to disclose, there is more and more research coming out showing that, unfortunately, GenAI disclosure might be perceived negatively by some other scholars or some editors, and it kind of would lead to reduced perceived trustworthiness. So if someone declares their use of GenAI in research, some other scholars would see it as, oh, this person has used GenAI. I cannot really trust this work. So on the one side, the journals require authors to reveal, to disclose, but on the other side, there is some evidence coming out that if you declare, there is reduced trustworthiness, which we call transparency paradox. So some authors would go to a journal and they see the journal requires disclosing their use of GenAI, but they have this fear of being judged negatively. And what they would do, some authors would just provide minimal information to satisfy disclosure policies. They would say, we use GenAI tools to polish the grammar, to fix grammatical mistakes, to just improve the language. So this is an issue that we all need to think about. So what about the research question? Going through each of them. The first one is the frequency of AI use in research. We established in our field, and we wanted to see how frequently authors reveal the use of GenAI in their research. And at the same time, we wanted to see the position of these disclosures. So where do these authors put their disclosures? Do they put it in a separate section within their acknowledgement, in the ethics part of the specified sections of the articles? So where do they put them? And also, they declare what information do they reveal? So we want, if we use ChatGPT to improve grammar, or do they say more? And finally, we wanted to see how are applied linguistics researchers using GenAI. So based on the information they revealed, we want to reveal this information. This tells us about usage in AI in our field. So these are the 4 research questions we're trying to find answer to. But when for SSCI linguistics, so SSCI stands for Social Sciences Citation Index. So this is by Web of Science, and journals that are indexed here are supposedly having high quality. And then went through the homepage of these journals. We analyzed 384 original research articles published between September 2024 and August 2020. And we analyzed declaration, I'm sorry, and additional information within these articles to find out the answer to our research questions. In the stage 1, we went to find answer to research question number 1 and 2. That's to say frequency and position or placement. And in stage 2, we answer question number 3, 4. That is state content, that's to say the information, and also the use. What these people make of GenAI. And we found 94 use cases of GenAI reported by authors. And here is an example of the declaration, which is skip. And what about our findings? So our study, a very small percentage of articles disclosed use of GenAI in research. Only 4.2% of our corpus revealed or disclosed in the use of GenAI. And more surprisingly, only 2.8% of them, that's to say 94 cases, disclosed use. They said we used GenAI. And 1.4 disclosed not that because the journal required this in this research whatsoever. And 95.8 mentioned nothing about GenAI. And what is interesting is that 53 out of 84 journals had no disclosure incidents, even one. So in 50 journals, the articles, not even, but 31 out of 84 journals had one incident. So 1/3, one or more incidents of disclosure. As you might have talked about the journal in our field called Recap, made it compulsory for authors to use AI, and in this journal, predict was 100%. All the authors publishing in this journal had declared either use or non-use of GenAI in their research. So, for and as you can see here, this is the list of the journals. Recal is there at the top with 100% report rate, and the other journals come after it. As you go down the list, you can see less and less reporting by the journals, and the percentage goes down. And we have just reported the journals that report at least one. So that was the question. And the second one was the placement. So let's see, where do these authors put their disclosures? So we noticed that most of these authors have a separate GenAI disclosure statement. Emerging conventions. It's very important to see how these conventions are emerging and probably intervene at some point to improve them, right? So 96 had a separate GenAI disclosure statement, and 27 journals had embedded it into their acknowledgements, and only 3 had embedded it into their ethics statements, and 5 were kind of other notes, footnotes, etc. And here are some extracts shared here. So, for example, as a separate statement, the authors would say, during the preparation of this manuscript, the authors used ChatGPT to improve the language. After using this tool, the authors reviewed and edited all aspects of the output and took full responsibility for the content of the publication. So you see, this was a separate statement of GenAI disclosure. And here we have another example of footnote placement that I'm going to skip. And what about our third question? What tool information is reported? What about the tools? What do authors feel about the tool? Like the version, the date? So we noticed that in those papers where there was a disclosure statement, there was also information about the tool name. That's to say, for example, ChatGPT, Grammarly, they rarely provided the version of the tool and the date the tool was used, the prompts they used, the access links were almost rare. They did not almost exist. And here are examples. For example, the first extract shows the tool, version, and purpose. The authors would say, during the preparation of this work, the authors used ChatGPT 4 in order to refine language and correct grammatical errors. So you see, they have mentioned the tool, that's to say ChatGPT, version, that's to say for, and also purpose, to refine language and correct grammatical errors. And as you can see in the next example, there's no, there's the, prompt disclosure, which is rare. So only a few cases had the prompts included in their disclosure. Here is one example. By inputting prompts such as, is this sentence correctly written? If not, make suggestions for improvement. Yeah, there were such examples of prompts provided. You can see, even when the prompts are provided, it's just the language. It's minimal of GenAI. GenAI just to improve the language. But coming out in that, published papers analyzed through different tools show that authors are more and more using GenAI in their research, but the disclosure is very low. And here are tables from our research. As you can see, ChatGPT is there at the top, and also more information. I'm not going to go through them, but a quick look reveals is always there at the top, and some other tools used as well. Fourth finding, for what authors, our study revealed that they mainly report editing, grammar, and refinement, for clarity and readability, for proofreading, and occasionally they would for reading counts. And here is an example extract, acknowledgements plus explicit non-use. For example, the authors say, the authors have used ChatGPT or GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 for language improvement. No generative AI was used for other purposes, such as idea generation, content generation, or analysis. And here you can see a table from our study where language editing or improving refinement is there at the top, then enhanced readability, clarity, then proofreading, then paraphrasing. Then you see less and less frequency. And for example, for text generation, notes, right? For image or figure enhancement, just one case within 3,000, almost 400 papers published or analyzed by us. But what about the purpose? So the previous slide discussed the language-related purposes. These authors say anything about study-related purposes or data-related purposes? Where, well, there were rare cases where the authors discussed the use of GenAI for data translation, for instrument interview guide feedback, for literature search, or code script generation analytics support. And here you can see an example. Use ChatGPT and Grammarly to receive feedback on the interview guide as part of the tool development. And here is a table from our study that shows translation at the top, but only 3. Find relevant literature, 2nd, but only 2. Tool instrument design, 1. Data generation, 1. Data analysis, 1. Idea generation, 1. But no examples of data collection or interpretation. What about the discussion of our findings? What do our findings reveal, and what do they tell us, and why are they important? So first, they showed that there is a very low disclosure rate within the field of language and linguistics, and our study shows that transparency is not yet normalized in our field. And the likely reason is that, as we discussed at the beginning of this talk, uncertainty is there whether authors should disclose or not. And authors probably are not sure where and how to disclose. And we all know there is this stigma around admitting GenAI use, unfortunately. And as we discussed earlier, there is this transparency problem that more and more studies are coming out saying that, unfortunately, if authors declare their use, there is this perceived reduced trustworthiness by the evaluators of their works. And our show that clear policy is very important. So I think if we are talking about publishing, working in some institutions, when there are clear policies, it's very helpful for normalizing reporting. And the universal discussion in most other from the Journal of Recal, as you can see here, it says all articles should be accompanied by a full description of any use of generative tool. If no GenAI tools were used, the authors declare no use of generative AI. So what is the main implication of our study? Well, the main implication of our study is that mandatory or clearly structured journal policies increase compliance, which is very important. And without explicit policy, authors may choose not to disclose at all. Or if they disclose, it would be very minimal. We just use GenAI to improve grammar or improve the style. So as we saw, most disclosures were narrow and just provided limited evaluative value. And most statements only identify the tool used, let's say ChatGPT and Grammarly, and a broad purpose such as editing, clarity, and proofreading. Much less was reported about the tool version, data views, access details, and prompts. I think prompts are very important to be provided and shared. And human accountability clauses were actually very common. Authors said that they review the outputs and they take full responsibility for the correctness of their papers, which is good because we need to be responsible. And also the low report rate can again be connected to the transparency paradox that we discussed before. So what are some more important policy on this? So women like disclosure templates. Study revealed that very helpful, and we believe useful disclosure should tool identification, purpose, scope, and human oversight. And we believe that the placement should be more consistent. Right uses maybe could be in a dedicated disclosure section. This is something that maybe we need to. And also, if we have used GenAI for research-related purposes, that should probably be in the method section of an article. So, and at the end, in our study, we argue that GenAI should become part of GenAI literacy for research writing. I mean, disclosure should become part of GenAI literacy for research writing. And thank you very much for listening to my talk. Again, you can scan the QR code here and download the paper, which is open access. If you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan, for this thoughtful presentation. We will now open the Q&A session. Please, everyone, you can ask by message or you can talk if you want. Thank you. We already have a question here from a participant who asked, what are the main ethical concerns surrounding the use of Gen AI in academic work?
Well, there are actually many ethical concerns, and one of the most important ones could be the bias in GenAI tools, and also um, the as they have talked about the hallucination problem with the GenAI tools, and also I can add um, the not acceptable, or what is the right word for expressing this, um, not having the literacy to use GenAI tools correctly, and leading to many ethical issues. For example, um, you sharing the data with GenAI tools and breaching the privacy of the data of the coming from the participants. So this is very important as well. And yeah, many more issues, ethical issues, like nudging is another issue, that the use of GenAI tools would push you towards certain ideologies, certain ideas that you may not necessarily quickly see, but it's there because it's building on the data coming from humans, and there is already some bias in that data, which is more or less Western oriented or English dominant. Yeah, these are some issues, but there are many more issues that we all need to think about. And there has been a lot written about actually the ethical issues surrounding the use of GenAI in different aspects of our lives, but I'm more focused on academic writing and publishing. I hope that responds to your question.
Thank you. The second question, are there differences in how Gen AI disclosure is approached across disciplines or countries?
That's definitely something that we all need to think about, and I think that's the beginning of reflecting on this. But I personally feel that definitely there are huge disciplinary differences, and that's why we are calling for discipline specific studies into the use of Gen AI, because we cannot come up with one size fits all solution or understanding of the use of Gen AI in research. And um, definitely disciplinary differences are there, and we definitely need more research. And actually I would encourage the audience to if you come from other disciplines, to repeat the same study or replicate the same study within your discipline, to just follow our procedure in this study, go to your discipline and see how things are working in your discipline. Because I know that the audience for this talk are not necessarily coming from language and linguistics background, so that would be a very good start.
Thank you. What best practices would you recommend for students, researchers, and institutions to use Gen AI ethically and effectively?
Well, that's an excellent question. I personally feel like to use GenAI ethically and responsibly and effectively, we need to have frameworks in place, and there are different components to these frameworks. Actually, we have proposed a framework for the effective and responsible use of GenAI. I can quickly share that one. First, we need to be transparent. If we're a student, if we are a teacher, if we are a researcher, we need to practice transparency, because actually transparency can help all of us to understand the correct practices, the okay practices, I can say. So transparency is the first one. And then the second one, we need to think how the use of GenAI is going to help us improve the rigor of what we are doing. Let's say the rigor of our study. How is it going to help me conduct a better study, not just to finish a study faster? So if you go in with the mindset that I want to use GenAI to finish this task faster, then probably you would not end up using GenAI in the best way possible. But if you go to GenAI saying how this could help me improve the rigor of, let's say, my study, then that's probably one important item to add to the list. And again, we need to be very ethical. So if I'm going to share the participants' data with some GenAI tools, I need to first go to the participants and ask for permission. And I need to also anonymize everything, and then probably think if I want to feed this into some GenAI tool or not. And probably if you are really responsible, you could read the policies of the GenAI tool you're going to use and see what they do with the data that is fed to them. Do they use it for training, for further training, or no, they do not use it? And then decide what is the best ethical action. And at the same time, to use these tools properly, we need to think about societal value. How does the use of these tools improve our society as a whole? And finally, human accountability. As we saw in this research, we need to be accountable. We cannot really hold machines accountable, and we as human beings need to be accountable. So I believe these are some areas that we need to think about when we say the right, effective, responsible use of GenAI.
Another question. What are the risks of over-reliance on Gen AI for students' critical thinking and creativity?
That's again a question, and actually, again, we are seeing more and more research coming out that says over-reliance on GenAI result in a decline in our cognitive abilities. And I thread this very carefully, and I personally, based on my lived experiences and talking to different people and also reading a lot of these, understanding is that it does in many ways reduce creativity and thinking. But again, this is very much dependent on my tools. Go to GenAI tools saying, I have this question, give me the answer, and this is that I do every time my GenAI tools, then probably in a lot of skills I have gained across the years. That talking, giving me the answer, and like that encourages reflection, critical thinking, and thinking of how I could add to the creativity, then that's probably not going to have a first effect on my ability. So that I think that overall it's a tool. But if we use appropriate, lead to
Thank you. Thank you. I think this is all the questions.
Thank you very much, Zainab. Thank you for the excellent questions, and thank you for inviting me. Yeah, I hope the talk has been helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan, for his insightful and engaging presentation. Your perspective on Gen AI disclosure, academic integrity, and responsible AI use have given us valuable insights into the challenges and opportunities facing education today. Thank you as well to everyone who joined us for this Tamkin and Shroud Talks. We look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye.